this way. Come this way.
Ready.
Some long forgotten words or ancient melody. He turned to me as if to say, hurry boy, it's waiting there for you. Gonna take a lot away. There's 100 men or more will ever do. Unless the rains down in Africa. Gonna take some time to do things I never had. My dogs cry out in the night as they grow restless, longing for some solitary company. I know that I must do what's right, sure as Kilimanjaro rises like Olympus above the Serengeti. Frightened of this thing that I become. Gonna take a lot away. There's 100 men or more will ever do. Unless the rains down in Africa. Gonna take some time to do things we never Very boy, she's waiting after you. Gonna take a lot away. There's 100 men or more will ever do. Unless the rains down in Africa. 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 Gonna take some time to do things we never
Welcome to the third Topeka West High School Graduate Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I'm former principal and 1969 Charger graduate Steve Roberts. At this time, I'd like to present again the Topeka West Singers under the direction of fellow Charger graduate Tina Goodrich. amazing kids, quite a talent pool here at Topeka West. I want to mention that I said I was former principal. I was interim principal for 1 year, and then I retired. And people ask me all the time, how do you like retirement? And I can tell you today, I haven't had a tie on since this event last year. And I really like that. Before we begin the induction ceremony, I want to thank the Topeka Public Schools Board of Education, Central Office Administration, former principals, current principal Jeannie Carton, for all that they have done over the years to make this Hall of Fame possible. Numerous of those folks are here today. I don't want to name people because I'll leave somebody out, but I appreciate your attendance here, as do our inductees. This Hall of Fame and staff recognition program has come about due to the efforts of a committee made up of graduates and former staff members. Those committee persons are listed in your program. If present, I'd like to ask them to stand quickly and be recognized. Walt Hilmer, class of 63. Randy Gregg, 64. Rick Taylor, 64. Kirk Nystrom, 68. Susie Hoffman, 83, whom I left out of the program last year, and she was sitting out here and I failed to mention her name. And retired staff member Rome Mitchell. I want to thank the committee members for their time and effort that they have invested to make this Hall of Fame possible. And as we get ready to get rolling here, I have a couple of quick announcements. If you are a Charger graduate or former staff member of the Hall of Fame, or the Distinguished Staff Award recipient, or are otherwise interested in serving on this committee, contact me here at the school. The last couple of years we've gotten it done in one meeting. We meet in April and we discuss our nominees and make our selections, and so it's not a high stress commitment. But if you're interested, get a hold of me and we'll be happy to have you on the committee. We generally start right after the 1st of April sometime. If you would like to nominate a graduate from the class of 1988 or earlier, or a former staff member, there are nomination forms available on the Topeka West website. If all else fails, call and leave word for me here at the school. When nominating, please provide some bio information and some kind of rationale for your nomination. Otherwise, somebody has to do all the, you just send me a name, then we got to do all the legwork to find out, why we would want to consider this person. So submit a little rationale, and it makes it more likely that your nomination will go someplace. And if you'd like to make a tax-deductible donation to the Topeka West Graduate Hall of Fame, there was a envelope in most of your programs, and you can give that to me or mail it if you like. I had a few of them sent in last year, and it's very helpful to help us keep this program going. At this time, I'd like to invite Principal Jeannie Carton to welcome you to Topeka West and the 2013 induction ceremony.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeannie Carton, as Steve said, and I'm the current principal at Topeka West High School. I've been here for 3 years. I do want to tell you, though, that this Graduate Hall of Fame and Distinguished Staff Award would not exist if it were not for Steve Roberts and his vision. And it is a rich tradition that he started here, so I want to thank Steve for that. I also want you to know that the reason that you can contact Steve at school is because he volunteers for us. He takes care of our wellness program, which is one of the things that we do to keep healthy and keep our insurance premiums lower. And he also leads this charge for the Graduate Hall of Fame and Distinguished Staff Award. You know, as I look at the names, and it's not a small pool of candidates to be inducted into the Graduate Hall of Fame and the Distinguished Staff Award presentation. So please bask in this limelight and this honor of being recognized by your colleagues. It is a true honor. This is not about me today, but I want you to know how deep purple runs in my veins, because I grew up in Topeka. I went to Whitson and Capper. I was at Topeka West for 1 year, and my dad moved me away. And I had to graduate from Wichita Southeast. But the class of 1970 welcomes me to all of the reunions, and I have the privilege and the honor of being the principal at the school that I wanted to graduate from, but didn't have the opportunity to do so. You know, as our school song says, and we sing it at every assembly at the end of every game, and it's so true today, north, south, east, or to where'er we roam, West will remain dear to our hearts, for West will always be our cherished home, even though we soon must part. West, we honor you. West, we will be true. Always faithful we shall be today. West, Topeka West. Thanks for coming back, everybody. We appreciate that. And thanks for being here.
Thanks, Jeannie. Is Noah Lindquist here? Oh, hey, Noah, come on down. Now we will hear from the president of the Topeka West High School student body and a member of the class of 2014, Noah Lindquist.
This prestigious event today marks the end of the Topeka West 2013 homecoming festivities. It is an honor to welcome you and to be among so many accomplished people. From the entire student body of Topeka West High School, congratulations to you, Hall of Fame inductees. Just to give you a little sample of how busy things can get at Topeka West during homecoming week, I have worn this tuxedo 4 times in the past 5 days. And on Friday night, I wore it over Under Armour. So thank you for joining us today and for all you have contributed in your careers. You make all of us feel proud to be Chargers. Thank you and enjoy your afternoon.
Hey, Noah, I want you to know that you will be eligible for this Hall of Fame in 2039. And if all goes well, I'll be here to MC it for you. Okay. At this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Henson to help me hand out the Distinguished Staff Awards. You want to do it from your seat there, Dr. Henson? Or do you want to come up? Okay, come on up. This year, the 4 recipients are all very familiar to Dr. Henson since they were here with him from the beginning as original staff members of Topeka West. I think Dr. Henson would probably like to make a few remarks before we hand out those awards.
Thank you very much, Steve. First of all, I want to thank Steve for putting this program together. You said you hadn't had a tie on since last year at this time. I haven't had one on for 15 years. And I don't intend to have one on. I wear this bolo tie or one like it when I want to dress up. It's just a little bit. I want to share with you some early events and some comments about the 4 people who are nominated today. They are exceptional, and all of them were here from the beginning, all 4. When we opened in 1961, and before that, we had a temporary office in the Board of Education building, and Martha Dickinson and Lola Page were my secretaries. And we enrolled all of the incoming students from that office. And my desk was moved into this building, or down the hall, in August 1, 1961. That first year we had 700 students, the second year 900, the third year 1,100. And it kept on growing until 1968 when we reached 1,600 plus. And then it started in the other direction. The baby boomer time had passed, and we only had 3 grades. Now you have 4 grades, and the program says you have about 1,100 students. Of those beginning teachers, 6 of them came from Highland Park, 4 from Topeka High, 1 from Holiday, 2 from Roosevelt, 1 from Boswell, 2 from Avondale West, which is now Shaner School. It was a junior high school in those days. 4 from Crapper, 1 from the administration building, and 1 from Crane. There were 31 of us. And we were trying to duplicate the program and do it somewhat differently than Topeka High, which had about 90 teachers. We had 10 people who were brand new to the district in that group. It took all of us to run a basketball game. The coaches were on the sideline, and we were taking tickets and doing everything else that has to be done. I met with Mr. Weaver, who was principal of Topeka High School, and he identified a committee of students to work with me in planning for the new school. They were sophomores and juniors who would come here as juniors and seniors. They narrowed the school colors down to 3 possibilities, and the mascot the same. And then I went around to all the various schools, Topeka High being the biggest one, and the junior feeder highs where they were to come from, and the student body voted on purple and white and Chargers. You can tell by where everybody came from. I kind of mined, like when you mine for coal or gold, I was looking for good teachers, and I found them. And they were collectively dedicated to this program. 2 of them came from Capper, Harold Hula and Bob Ramsey. They were exceptional young men. It's hard to talk about them separately. The 3 of us bonded immediately. They didn't know straight up about running a high school because they'd been classroom teachers, good classroom teachers, but they were quick learners. And luckily, I had been assistant principal at Topeka High School for 4 years, so I knew a little bit about what it was like to run a fairly big school. Bob Ramsey came from Osage City. His parents died when he was 16, and his older sister took him in. And he transferred to Topeka High School. I remember a story he told me. He was enrolled by the chairman of the guidance department, given a schedule, and said, okay, you can go to class now. He said, I walked out of the room and I didn't know where to go in that big building. It's a magnificent building. He went on to become supervisor of social studies here in this district, assistant superintendent in Lawrence, and assistant superintendent in St. Louis Park, Minnesota, before retiring. Now he writes books and does all sorts of great things. Every week he wrote a bulletin for us. It was called the Weekly Bull Quotes Eton. And it was clever and kept us on our toes. Harold was from Blue Rapids, I believe. He was from Capper, as I mentioned before. He was known for his tidy desk. That's a joke. It was far from tidy, but he knew where every piece of paper was, or he pretended to at least. and he was an exceptional counselor and administrator and valuable to this school. One day, I got a call from the central office. I think it was Mr. Whitson called, and he said, I want you to bring your administrative staff to the board building. We're having a meeting of all the high school administrators, and we want to know how you're going to handle student smoking. That's an impossible task anyway. And we had not even given a thought to it. We had too many other things to do. And I said, meet me in the Circle Drive and we'll go down to the board building. On the way down there, we put together our plan and presented it like we had really studied it. It was as good as anybody else's anyway. Anyway, they learned quickly and helped get this program off the ground. Margaret Fowler came from Emporia. She was in the school district 40 years, 4 of them at Highland Park and 36 at Topeka West. She was the last of the original group to retire. And she still volunteers at the school. And she has established a scholarship fund for students who need help here at Topeka West. She came as a Spanish teacher and then later became a marvelous counselor. And in the latter years of Topeka West, I taught one class, and most everybody had a classroom teaching assignment as well as their administrative or counseling assignment in those days. And I taught one class, and she was my substitute if I had to be gone. Some of the other principals said, you shouldn't be teaching, you have to be gone too much. My response was, I didn't miss as much as a debate coach. David, you were a debater, you know that. You've gone every Friday. Anyway, another little humorous thing that I wanted to bring up, the bell system didn't work. And I don't know whether it wasn't finished or it was just, it didn't work, the kinks out of it yet. But you could turn the PA system on an all-call. And Lola Page, who was one of the secretaries, was running the switchboard, and we'd have her ring this little bell. Scott, when I'm gone, you might want to auction this off. It's a cheap bell, but it'd sell for a lot. Don't sell it cheap. Ruth Lichtenstern came from Denison, Kansas. She was a solid, marvelous teacher. And our son Scott, who's seated right here, was in her class, and she was his favorite teacher. And so she has a special place in our heart at our house. A couple more things and then I'll sit down. Having a hard time reading my own writing. These 4 people and a lot of others helped make this a special place. It takes all kinds of people to run a school. We had good custodians, good secretaries, food service people. All of them are required to run a school, and all are important. And I had a kind of a private dream that I didn't share with them. I'm not trying to be Martin Luther King here, but my private dream that I didn't share with anyone was I thought if I could be here about 5 years, we could develop an almost perfect high school. Well, we never quite got there. You never do in a human institution. But it's the effort that counts. It's the commitment. It's the caring attitude of the staff, and we had that. We may not have been one of the best high schools in Kansas, but we thought we were. And I'm reminded, because of that dream, of a quote by Herbert Moore, who wrote a great book called Uses of the Past. And it helps to illustrate the struggle to create a perfect institution. And it goes like this: our business as rational human beings is to strive for what ought to be rather than what is going to be, in the consciousness of it will never quite be all we want it to be. Thank you for your attention, and I'll turn it back to Steve.
Thanks, Dr. Hanson. Very good job.
You want me to sit down there?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think.
you want you don't, okay,
I think I'll just sit down.
okay, that'd be fine. I always appreciate Dr. Henson's observations and remarks. He's the foremost founder of this school and an important reason that all of these graduate and staff inductees are able to be here today. This year, the committee selected 4 original staff members to receive the O&M Henson Distinguished Staff Award. Like previous recipients, these are people whose talent and dedication had a lifelong impact on the lives of their students. These people were instrumental in helping Dr. Henson to get Topeka West off to a great beginning and to create a model for secondary education that was replicated around the country. The first of these that I'd ask to come forward is Margaret Fowler. Margaret served on the Hall of Fame committee for a couple of years, and last April we had our meeting and she didn't show up. So she was apologizing to me for that, and I said, well, that's okay. We took advantage of your absence to nominate and select you for the Distinguished Staff Award. It's hard to talk about somebody when they're sitting right there. And other people had said, what about Margaret? And I'm thinking, well, she's always right there in the meeting. You know, how are we going to do that? So she blows off the meeting and ends up getting into the Distinguished Staff Award.
I knew what I was doing.
If Dr. Henson was the first original charger, it could be said that Margaret was the last original charger. She retired in 1997 as the last of the original faculty members remaining on the staff. During her long career, she taught Spanish and psychology. She also served many years as a counselor, and the Margaret Fowler Fund has helped needy chargers pay for school-related items that they otherwise might struggle to afford. And I have in parentheses here in my notes, you are welcome to donate to the Margaret Fowler Fund. Just notify the principal or me. Margaret is still active at the school and has been having a positive impact on the Topeka West community for over 50 years. So, Margaret Fowler, yeah, let's say something.
No, I really didn't skip that meeting on purpose. I really didn't. Well, I could say get comfortable. I have 36 years to talk about, but I won't take that much time. When I was at Highland Park, I had heard that there was going to be a school built out on the west side, and I got to thinking it would really be exciting to be a member of a brand new school and to help get one off the ground. So I wrote a letter to 501. Evidently that ended up with Dr. Henson, and evidently several other people from Highland Park did that also, because he came out to Highland Park and picked the 6 of us up and brought us out to about 38 acres, I think it was, of no buildings. And we walked around and he knew where everything was going to be. He'd said, now this is where A building will be and this is where C building will be. and this is where D building will be, and there's the football field out there, and he could see that, and as he talked, we could see it too, and that's where we wanted to be. That spring, well, anyway, at that time, Fairlawn was a gravel road. Westridge wasn't out there. Lots of things weren't there. So we kind of grew with it. Then when the school opened, it was an exciting time. It really was. Then eventually, the school got too big. We had C and D. We didn't have the third little school, as we called them then. Eventually, we had to change that to divisions for some reason. I like the little school concept. But they built B school, and at that time, I was teaching psychology and Spanish, and they needed a counselor in that building and also a counselor director. And when they opened that school that fall, Harold Hula and I were the people in there. But before that, while I was teaching Spanish, I have to tell you, one of the highlights of my being at Topeka West was taking a bus trip to Mexico City. 501 Spanish students. We had a bus load. We loaded up over in front of Topeka High School, and we left to go to Mexico City on the bus. And our bus drivers drove straight through from Topeka, Kansas to Mexico City. And they traded off, and I think at one time we maybe at the border we picked up new drivers. But the interesting thing was, there are mountains and curves and so forth. Well, they turned the lights off when you went around a curve so they could see whether there was another car coming or not. It was a little tense, but we didn't show it. But anyway, we got back in one piece, and it was a month's visit in Mexico City, and it was wonderful. And I'm still in contact with some of those kids who were there. Another outstanding highlight from my time here was that Topeka West was to receive an award in Washington, D.C. for being a prestigious high school, and we were. So, and I got to go with Mr. Hula, and no, it was Connie Skinner and Dr. Henson, and I got to go on that trip. And it was really great to be among that group that received that prestigious award. In the fall of '64, I believe it was, when B building opened, Harold Hula and I were there and for many years. And since that time, in about 1997, I decided to retire, and it was really hard for me to give up coming over to West, and so I never have given it up. After I was gone, occasionally people call in and say, there's a bomb in your school, it was a bomb threat. So one of the things they decided to use to say, instead of there's a bomb threat, they'd say Margaret Fowler is in the building. Well, I was here so often that people started to take cover when I showed up. So I had to quit doing that, and I don't know what the code word is now. So that's it. And I'm still on campus quite a bit. And one of the things that I have done, I volunteer, I work over at New Directions, which is a program where people who have not graduated from school can go and complete their requirements. And one of the things that I do for them, for New Directions and for Topeka West, is a lot of those kids have diplomas that are locked up in a closet. And once they complete those requirements at New Directions, I come over here and I sort through the closet and find their diploma and give it to them. And so that's one of my good deeds now. Anyway, so I'm still connected to Topeka West, and I'm not a bomb threat anymore.
Thanks, Margaret. We had a couple little glitches in the program. and one of them involved the next recipient, Ruth Lichtenstern. I'd asked Ruth to come forward and apologize for leaving the middle T out of Lichtenstern, left that out in the program, so misspelled her name. Some people get really bent out of shape about things like that, but Ruth's pretty pretty good about it. Ruth came to Topeka West from Highland Park to become one of the original staff members, and eventually one of the longest serving original staff members. When I notified Ruth of her selection by the committee, she humbly suggested that she was not worthy of the honor. The committee certainly felt differently. Ruth was a part of that special group of educators that were here the first day the building opened, and then formed the foundation for the first decades as Topeka West developed into a nationally recognized school of excellence. Ruth taught math at Topeka West and was known for her ability to help kids of all skill levels. Ruth, the committee agreed that you are a distinguished staff member, an important person in the founding history of Topeka West, and they are proud to present you with this award, which I'll pick up for you over here.
I'm prepared. Now, thank you so much, Steve, and to the rest of you, and to Dr. Henson. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. You started all this many years ago, which is wonderful. I was so grateful to get to come to Topeka West. I really hated to leave Highland Park, though. I'd have to admit that at the time, but now I'm very thankful that things changed. But it was because it became a 3-year high school at Highland Park that some of us were available to look for another job. Marjorie French is the one who told me I was going to be here, so I felt very good about that. Anyway, I have some mementos here, but I would want to say thank you to all of you that are here. And the first thing, seeing Bob Ramsey, I had to show him this. This is a Christmas card he made when he was here. He was very creative, always has been. Why did I save it? I don't know. My family will tell you, though, and they're seated out here, and I appreciate them coming, that I don't throw anything away, and I don't. But it was a real cute card if you'd like to see it. Another thing I found going through things, the Topeka West program when we first had the dedication, and it gives you all the names of everybody that did everything. But the most interesting thing of all, the total cost for the original place was $2,504,189.33. Now, who got the 33 cents? But anyway, we beat Topeka High because they could brag about their $1 million school back in the 30s. That was the only one that had ever had a $1 million school. Of course, the 30s are a little different than the 60s also. But anyway, makes you want to reminisce about things that took place. Margaret did a great job of telling about her activities. I would share a couple of things with you. One of them was that I have some books here that people might be interested in seeing. This was put together by Carol Wilson's class in 1991, and it covers the 30 years, so there's a history. And they interviewed teachers and students. Some of you are probably in this, and it's quite interesting to go back and look at that if you want to find out what went on. I hope somebody's still doing that at Topeka West. I know the yearbooks are very helpful, but do they still print a yearbook, or do they just put them online? Does anybody know? You do print it. Okay, I'm glad to hear that, because those were very valuable to go back and look at. I think I have almost every one. I don't know what happened to a few of them, because we always got them, I know, and they were very interesting to have. Okay, another thing that we did was go out to, well, there was a group of us that were single, and we were young at that time. That's why I had the energy to do what we had to do, and I'm thankful it was then and not now, because there were about 7 of us ran around together, had to have things to do after school, you know. Well, I don't know how many would know who Carolyn Paul is. She was an English teacher those first years. She got married in 1964, and so she still stayed and taught, I think, another year after that. Well, she'd always told this group of us that, you know, she never had to use an outhouse. She didn't know what that even looked like. Well, we decided it was time she knew what one looked like. And so she and her husband had a little house somewhere in Topeka. I don't remember now where they lived. So we got together over at Robert Northam's aunt's garage and built this. Okay. So there were 6 of us. I'll tell you names again. There was, let me think if I can remember, Don Dibble, and he was in the business department. So was Jerry Getz. And of course, Robert Northam was the science teacher. And let's see, who else was there? Oh, Rochelle Christensen was an English teacher. And then Pat Buck helped us out too. She wasn't here, but she was a librarian in the system. So, and of course I was there too. We built this, but how are we going to get it over to them? We wanted it delivered on Halloween. We thought this would be appropriate. So, actually it was a neighbor, his aunt let us use her garage, and she got one of her neighbors that had a pickup, and they got a big box like you get from a refrigerator or something, put it in there, and it was delivered over there. I don't know, it was actually Halloween, but at that time. But we'd arranged to be over at their house for a party that evening, and so we saw it delivered. I have pictures of all that. Most people don't even know this existed, but we haven't heard the Topeka West part yet. Okay, what do you do with one after you have it in your front yard? Well, we didn't really know what to tell them to do either. But somebody said, well, maybe they could use it over here for the theater. And so somebody contacted Don Dorrell and Royce Fleming, I guess. They must have okayed it, so it ended up over here somewhere in storage, I suppose. I don't know whether it ever got up here on the stage or not. Anyway, whatever happened, I don't know. Well, then the fire marshal comes through and says, that is a fire hazard, you've got to get rid of it. So somebody probably had a nice bonfire somewhere, but we didn't ever get, so we had an unused one of those things sitting here at Topeka West for a while. So that was educational. Yeah. Well, I want to share another thing out of this, which really summarizes, I think, what Topeka West was all about. The school within a school concept of secondary education, which is being inaugurated at Topeka West High School, is designed to place emphasis on the worth of the individual. And I think that was the key right there. Everybody was important. The primary purpose of a comprehensive high school should be to provide the meaningful challenge educational programs for each student, commensurate with his own interests, aptitudes, and abilities. I think we accomplished that, or I hope we did. I felt that we did. And I thought we were going to be up on the stage today. I think last year you had him come up there. But this is a lot easier.
First year we were up here.
First year.
Moved down.
I think that's wise. But I was going to say, I was thinking that if we were up there, I could say, this is the first time I've been up there since 1974. And that would be when we handed out the awards to the departments. And for several years I had that job, I recall. But I'm glad we're down here. And I would put in a little plug for the things that we used to see when we were sitting out in the audience. The musicals were wonderful, so were the plays, and even the assemblies that we had, that you had to come to, I think, in most cases. But anyway, we just had lots of fun. And I thank everybody for coming today and for being here, and I hope you all come back next year if there's more.
Thank you, Ruth. I'm going to make a little alteration in the program. Our next recipient, I'm going to award one of our Distinguished Graduate Awards at this time. Dr. David Riebstein, Charger Class of 1967, is a teacher in Philadelphia, and he has classes reporting in the morning tomorrow. So when I started teaching, 1978, a person who became a friend and kind of a mentor to me, a guy named Dean Burgess, had been at Roosevelt Junior High for 17 years and had never missed a day of school. And I kind of resolved at that time that he was a guy I kind of wanted to be like and emulate in my teaching career. And Dr. Riebstein feels a lot the same way about his obligation to his students, and I have the greatest respect for that. He has a flight not too long from now, and I don't want him to feel cramped to get back to KCI, because he told me if he misses that flight, he's driving to Philadelphia tonight. So I'm going to ask Dr. Riebstein to come forward, and then we'll go back where we left off in the program. Dave Riebstein is the William Stewart Woodside Professor of Marketing at the Wharton School of Business, University of Pennsylvania. He flew in from Philadelphia solely for this ceremony and will be flying back tonight so as to be able to teach his classes scheduled tomorrow. Dave holds degrees from the University of Kansas as well as a doctorate from Purdue. His rise in academia seems to me to have been quite rapid. I calculated, I hope accurately, that just 8 years after his graduation from Topeka West, he was an assistant professor of marketing at the Harvard School of Business. In the ensuing years, Dave has been very busy researching, writing, and consulting on a variety of business-related topics. He's also a dedicated, dynamic, award-winning teacher who has been honored with over 30 teaching awards. His classes, although known to be tough, are also very popular. Forbes magazine has named him one of 8 of America's favorite business professors. Since graduating from Topeka West, Dave Riebstein has become one of America's most distinguished business educators and consultants. Topeka West is proud to include him as a member of the Graduate Hall of Fame. Dr. David Riebstein.
Well, thank you very, very much, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here and receive this particular award. I'm honored, and frankly, I'm humbled as well. I think as I look at my classmates and then all the others that have graduated from Topeka West, it is a crew of people that we collectively can be all very, very proud of. And I feel very fortunate and lucky to have been selected to receive this. Actually, during the reception when I was chatting with people, nobody ever said anything to me about anything I did that was distinguishing while I was here. More people mentioned my parents' drugstores, a Seacrest drug, and that's what it is that they happen to remember. And I don't think per se I did anything that was that distinguishing while I was here. But I do owe a thanks to all of you. I thank you, Steve, for organizing this event and the Hall of Fame and the Hall of Fame committee. Jeannie, I thank you. The staff never got adequate attention, I think, while we were students, but obviously contributed to all of our time here. And there's tremendous thanks that are owed to all of them. And by the way, Ms. Fowler, I think I was on that bus to Mexico City. And when the lights went out, I closed my eyes as we went around those corners, but I do think I was on that. When I had chatted with Steve, he said, you know, when you receive the award, you can say a few words if you would like. And I said, I'm used to speaking in an hour and 20-minute blocks, and so I'd be delighted to. And he said, or you don't have to. You know, so, and we've got this scheduled. It was probably scheduled to happen earlier in the day, but once he found out my flight time, he moved it so I wouldn't have an hour and 20 minutes to speak to the group. I tried thinking about what would be appropriate if I would say something here, and it has to do with you know, anything that any of us have achieved, I think has to start with a really strong foundation. And to me, there are sort of 3 core pillars to that, which is our parents and the family that we have. And my parents and family were absolutely supportive the whole time and really, really wonderful. Second thing is our peers and the support that all of them provided us. And I've seen some of our peers here, my peers here, and I'm appreciative of them coming, and I'm more appreciative of the time that they helped in my formative years. And then third is the school and the faculty and staff. And there's no question that Topeka West played a pivotal role in the foundation of sort of teaching me to be a student. And I'm just delighted to see Dr. Henson here. I will tell you, at our class reunion that we had, he showed up at that. And he is amazingly active and has contributed to the formation of this school, but continues to contribute. So thank you very much, and really appreciative of you being here. What I can say is I learned to be a student while I was here, and while I'm a professor right now, I really view my being a professor as the role of being a student. Every day as a faculty member, I sort of feel that I need to say thanks to my students, because I walk out of class feeling like I learned a lot more than when I walked in. And I feel very, very beneficial from having such experiences. I've had the honor of having CEOs that have been my former students. So the CEO of Procter & Gamble is a former student of mine, as is the CEO of General Motors, as is the CEO of companies all around the world. And while they were students of mine, they continued to give back. And for that, I am very, very appreciative. The way I sort of characterize my current job, so I'm a professor right now at the University of Pennsylvania at the Wharton Business School. And it must be how some of you view your jobs while you're working here at Topeka West, is every day, and every year, students come in, they're full of energy, they're enthusiastic to learn, and about the time they get jaded, we graduate them and bring in another group. And that is really, really wonderful. So students help keep us young. And as we try and contribute to them, we need to be fully cognizant of how much they contribute to us. The staff and teachers here are really angels in that they give. They give back to community by trying to set us on the right path. And for all of you that are here, I thank you, and I hope that throughout my career, I represent Topeka West very, very well. And I'm delighted and thankful to be here, and I'm going to apologize to some of the others because I'm going to have to duck out and try and make a flight. But thank you, Eric, for urging me to come. I appreciate it, and for holding this event and honoring me. So thank you very much.
I think you'll be okay if you go ahead and I think I'll be okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Riepstein. Dr. Henson mentioned earlier when talking about Bob Ramsey and Harold Hula that it was hard to talk about one without talking about the other. So I've decided to do something a little differently from what we've done in the past by asking both gentlemen to come forward for their Distinguished Staff Awards. Would Harold Hula and Robert Ramsey please come forward? These gentlemen were the first counselor directors at Topeka West, equivalent of today's assistant principal. Together with Dr. Henson, they formed the first leadership team at the school. They helped plan and implement one of the pioneer ventures in American secondary education at the time, the school within a school program concept. Because of their outstanding leadership in defining the successful direction of Topeka West and the resulting impact on the national educational scene, Topeka West is proud to recognize them with the O&M Henson Distinguished Staff Award, and I've asked Mr. Hula and Dr. Ramsey to say a few words. Thank you.
It was kind of easy to fall back into our old pattern of relationship. Bob said, "Why don't you go first?" And I did. I also also, we forgot to tell you, Bob, that this is really the last lecture series, so it'll be a while. No, I'm kidding. I had just a few comments. One of the words of advice from Dwayne Schuffelberger was make it short. So I will do that. I want to mention 2 or 3 things. One, for those of you that are not familiar with the schools within the school approach, in the late 50s there were some books that came out and some news articles where students had died for various reasons, or students, something had happened to, and in the newspaper came the words, "Nobody knew this person. We don't remember this person. We don't know who they are." And so the schools within the school approach was designed to take a core of students in a small school and follow them through several years with English, math, and so on. And separate schools were designed to then house the science programs, because many students would continue in sciences, so the teachers would get to know them over several years. And music was another, and so on. But for those of you that didn't know what the deal was, it was to help get to know students by having them, like in a small school setting, for several years. I thought before I came up here that if someone asked me what was the best program or the best thing that you produced at Topeka West, I couldn't come up with it, because the specific program was not the thing that Topeka West produced. What was produced was an attitude that was interested in students and that cared what happened to them. And with that attitude, largely fostered by Owen Hansen, with that attitude and with the core of fantastic teachers that we had, a lot of things were produced. A lot of programs were produced. I want to talk about 2 things that happened, and then I will make space so that you can talk about. One of the examples was the independent study program. And the independent study program grew out of someone asking a question, why can't we do this in high school? And so we talked through it and decided, well, maybe it is possible. What are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about that? And as we worked through and saw that we could work out a program where people could get credit for this, we introduced that program. The later things were the oral history programs and so forth. So a lot of things developed, but it developed because we had an atmosphere of caring what the students might need and working together. We had a period in that first year especially that was a godsend, because everybody worked together. The students worked together, the faculty worked together, people were creative, and again I have to return to Owen Hansen because he was extremely supportive, he was extremely accepting of new ideas, and things just developed. With that, I think I'm going to stop, because I'm very much aware that is another group of people that are going to receive awards, and I want to offer my congratulations to the Hall of Fame recipients. And I want to finish with one incident that will characterize something that has to do with Owen Hansen. Many times we would introduce a program or we would talk about a program like independent study. We'd say, why can't we do this in high school? Well, we can. We would talk about the procedures, we'd talk about what the eligibility should be, we'd talk about how to award grades and so forth. And sometimes we would get very vociferous, or maybe I would get very vociferous about my point of view, or about questioning, can we do this, what are the problems, and so forth. And one time, after I was particularly argumentative, I walked back to the administration building, and I sought out Owen, and I said, Owen, I have to apologize for being so verbal and aggressive and so forth. And he heard me out. He listened all the way through. And then after I had finished, he looked at me in a very meaningful way, and he said, Harold, if we agreed on everything, one of us wouldn't be needed. And I knew he wasn't going someplace. But that characterized his acceptance of controversy or anything else. He wanted to get at what the issues were and how to resolve them and what could be produced. So I'm eternally grateful, Owen. Thank you for selecting a couple of very green administrative people, as we've often talked about, to provide support for you. And I must say that lesson has served me well. I remember when I left Topeka West and worked for other bosses, I always ingratiated myself to them by arguing about things and talking about issues. And then I would, if I felt, for example, that they did not understand my intent, I would say to them, let me tell you about the best boss I ever had. That got their attention. And then I could go ahead and explain to them that what I had finally come to understand is that assistance to a person, one of their most important jobs is to seek out what are the problems that could develop, what are the unintended consequences. And you fostered that, Owen, so thank you very much. With that, I'll turn it over back.
Thank you, everyone. I asked Harold to come first because I know how untrustworthy he is. I wasn't sure what he would say, and I wanted the opportunity to have a rebuttal. But he distinguished himself as always. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I'm glad we came all the way from Minnesota for this event, and I appreciate my son and my granddaughter and my wife for accompanying me on the journey. And we're not going to drive to Philadelphia tonight, but we are going to drive back to Minneapolis so they can get to work and school in the morning. But when you receive an award like this, it's always gratifying and satisfying, but it's also a little embarrassing because you know in your heart of hearts that you weren't that much more outstanding than anybody else, which is obvious from the little examples you've seen today. You know that maybe you're not that deserving, but you take it anyway because you appreciate the recognition. There's an old saying that if you see a turtle on a fence post, you know somebody must have helped put it there. And when you receive an award like this, you have to know that a lot of people helped put you there. And you've seen many of them today. I owe Owen Ensign more for my personal and professional life and what I've accomplished than any other single human being. And I cherish the very unique relationship that Harold and I had for many years. And I also appreciate the staff, and particularly the ones that are represented here today. We're a very creative bunch of people. And we worked hard, and we kept our heads down. When we looked up, there was a school that opened. And we were proud of the school then, but I think all of us have become prouder of what it has become. So it's certainly a pleasure for me to be here, and I graciously accept the award, and thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Henson, and all of today's recipients of the Henson Distinguished Staff Award. I would venture to say that there are no great schools that have not been blessed with great people working in them. From the first day of school in 1961, Topeka West has certainly been so blessed. Let's give today's recipients one more round of applause as we move into our Graduate Hall of Fame induction. At this time, I would ask Dr. Peg McCarthy, class of 1983, to come forward. The intended purpose of the Topeka West Graduate Hall of Fame is to recognize Chargers that have gone on to distinguish themselves after graduation. Peg McCarthy is a person that has done that. She also distinguished herself remarkably before as well as during high school. In 1978, as an 8th grader, Peg won the Scripps National Spelling Bee. She was champion of an annual event that has become so popular that ESPN covers it like it was the Super Bowl. And if you think about it, mathematically, your odds are very slim of ever being a lottery winner. Your odds are very slim of ever knowing somebody that won the lottery. And there's a whole lot more of them than there are spelling bee winners, national spelling bee winners. So we know somebody that's probably more unlikely to know than a lottery winner. They're all over the place. At Topeka West, Peg was an active school leader as well as a top scholar. I was told by her nominator that she was a virtuoso harpist, one of the few that have come through our schools. As a presidential scholar and national merit scholar, Peg went on to Yale University and also received advanced degrees from University of Kansas. Her adult life has been devoted to her family, to her practice of clinical psychology, and to service to the community. She serves on numerous boards and associations, but is probably best known for her service on the Topeka Public School Board of Education. Dr. Peg McCarthy has, as a student, a teacher, a professional practitioner, community volunteer, civic leader, and distinguished parent of 3, demonstrated herself to be an incredible asset to the Topeka community. Topeka West is proud to include her as a member of our Graduate Hall of Fame. I present Dr. Peg McCarthy.
Like the other honorees tonight, I was humbled and a little embarrassed by being chosen for this. It seems premature to me, so I hope I have many years ahead to continue to earn this honor. But it does give me the chance to tell you my little Topeka West story, which probably not many people know the details of. Because my attending Topeka West was very purposeful. After I won the National Spelling Bee, there was a seismic shift for me in my thinking. I think it was the first time I realized that there was a life for me outside of Kansas, and that students from Topeka, Kansas could compete on a national level. And so I began thinking, what would that be like to go to college out of state and to maybe look at other opportunities? With that in mind, I was so excited to start high school. I felt finally here was going to be my chance to have challenging curriculum, other students like me who are really interested in learning, to really be able to find the path that would help me get where I wanted to go. Well, my whole family had attended a parochial high school, and I did likewise in my 9th grade year. And that was an unhappy year for me. It was not what I expected. It was a very good school, but it was one in which it was smaller. The emphasis was more on athletics. And maybe most of all, I didn't find that challenge that I needed. At smaller schools, it can be difficult to provide that. At the same time, my next older sister had started college, and one of her classmates was a recent graduate of Topeka West. And she said, "Oh, Mary, you've got to have Peg go look at Topeka West." She said, "The teachers are amazing." So it's really fun for me to be here tonight when teachers are being recognized, including my old honors geometry teacher, Ruth Lichtenstern, because that is one thing that truly stood out about Topeka West at the time. There were legendary teachers. She said there are honors classes, there are advanced placement classes. I don't even know what those were. It's a place where the arts are encouraged and embraced. Those are the stars of the school. And we know that to be true still. Not the athletes, but keep trying. So I made that decision, and God bless my parents and my family were totally supportive of that, despite no one else from our immediate family having done that. They gave me the support to make that happen. And I stepped on the campus knowing very few people. And it always kind of stuns me when I talk to teenagers nowadays who have such negative experiences at high school, because I can't imagine how mine could have been better. From day one, I found exactly what I was looking for. I found those teachers, I found those classes, I found that spirit of intellectual curiosity. It was a big deal that I went on to Yale, but can I tell you that my classmates in my year went on to Stanford, to Brown, Washington University in St. Louis, Georgetown, on and on. I was far from the only student who had those abilities. And that tradition continues today at Topeka West and in our other Topeka public schools. I tried to think of some funny story. I can't tell many without incriminating myself. I think Judge Rosen would agree. I did think of one I could share. I ran into a high school classmate recently who reminded me of our classes with the Venerable Wayne Wingo. I don't know if anybody remembers him. Yeah, so he was a legendary social studies teacher and much feared. He was very stern, he was very imposing, and I took AP US History, AP European History, and Government from him. He was outstanding. But all of us, as we got to know him, we always had this goal of is there some way that we could render him speechless or really get to him, make him blush. So we got together and put together a plan, and he always made a big deal about his birthday, always made sure we knew when it was. So on his birthday that year, we hired a belly dancer to come in. And I don't know how she got on campus, I don't know any of the details, but it was quite memorable, and Wayne Wingo couldn't talk. and that was typical of my years at school. It was a joyful, fun, great place, and even though I was a nerd, I felt just as cool as anyone else. And I can tell you in the next part of my life, when I came back to Topeka and had matured and entered the phase of my life where I became a mother and a psychologist, and I began to look at education for my own children, I realized how passionately I felt about public education, and that if I could do something to help other kids have that kind of experience that I did, then I really needed to invest myself in that. And I can tell you that my work on the Board of Education has been extremely rewarding. I would encourage everyone to consider it. It's challenging, it is enriching, it's hard, but what better effort to put yourself into. I am proud to report that same spirit I felt, that I went to a school that met my needs individually, and as Mr. Hula said, that independent study, I did that with Marge Bacalar, who was my personal mentor in high school. I became interested in the study of literature. She took me under her wing. I took multiple classes from her. I had an entire year of independent study junior year in American literature that was taught at a probably more like a college level. And it was something that showed me that I wanted to be an English major in college. She was an exceptional teacher, but she was not alone. I could go on and on about the many teachers I had at Topeka West who gave me that kind of experience. So in my work on the Board of Education, I can tell you that is the commitment I bring that we meet every child's needs, and not just the ones who are high achievers, but the ones who achieve at all levels from all backgrounds, and that if we really want to raise the leaders of tomorrow, that's the kind of place we want to send them to, where everyone's together, learning, studying, day by day next to each other. So I could go on for hours about the state of Topeka Public Schools right now, but I won't. If anybody wants to hear any more later, feel free to give me your thoughts and to hear all the great things that are going on. But I want to say Topeka West continues to be an inspiration for me. It was a terrific experience for me, and I'm very honored to be here tonight and to be given this award. Thank you.
Mr. Wingo was a legend here at Topeka West. When I taught at Landon, I taught history, and at the conclusion of some lessons, let's say the Spanish-American War, we'd wrap it up and I'd say to my kids, now when you get out to Topeka West and Mr. Wingo starts teaching about the Spanish-American War, I want you to raise your hand and say, Mr. Wingo, I had Mr. Roberts at Landon. We already know all this. Could we go on to something else? I think some of them actually did that. Okay. At this time, I'd like to ask our final recipient, Eric Rosen, Charger class of 1971, to come forward. Eric Rosen's reputation as a courageous and insightful district judge for 13 years in Shawnee County led to his 2005 appointment as Justice on the Kansas Supreme Court. Some of his many awards and recognitions for excellence in the field of law are listed in your program. He also has been a past recipient of the Martin Luther King Humanitarian Award. Justice Rosen continues to be recognized as a highly capable and accomplished jurist by his peers, as well as those practicing before the court. Topeka West is particularly appreciative of the time that he takes with his high school alma mater. He's always willing to meet with government classes both on campus and at the Judicial Center, where he often arranges for them to observe oral arguments before the state's highest court. Eric married fellow Charger Libby Averill, also from the class of 1971, and they have raised 4 sons. Justice Eric Rosen, by the way, they have 6 grandchildren and at least 1 more on the way. Justice Eric Rosen is a distinguished Kansan and a leader in his chosen field. Before I turn it over to him, I want to say that one of our other glitches in the program, we had a great idea this year to include the picture that will be on the plaque and then the senior picture from the yearbook, except we got the wrong guy, and some fellow named Steve Rose, who was right next to Eric Rosen, got put in the program. So I think we're going to have to put Steve Rose in the Hall of Fame next year. I mean, I don't know anything about it. The guy might be in the penitentiary for all I know, but we're okay. I'm sorry about that, Eric, that we goofed that up. We'll get that right. Topeka West is proud to induct him into our Graduate Hall of Fame. I present Eric Rosen.
Thank you, Steve, and I do know Steve Rose. He was a classmate of mine at Crestview, Capper, and here at Topeka West. And the one distinguishing feature besides, obviously, our different paths was that he actually could grow facial hair in high school, as you could see, and I certainly could not. So anyway, it's fine. Earlier in the week, Steve emailed me and said the day's getting close, and I was really excited by that. And he said, you can come up and accept your award, and you can say some things off the cuff, or you can write something down, keep it to about 3 or 4 minutes, and I'm thinking, well, my position spontaneity yields to deliberation and thought. So here are some of my thoughts. I knew I would be overwhelmed by the emotion of all this, so I did take some time to put down some of my thoughts about being here and what a great honor this is. Again, thank you all. The last time, and I thought I would be up here on this stage, but I was in this auditorium, I think, was in 1971 in the spring, when we were gathered with about 100 of my fellow classmates for the grand finale of what we had then was a senior class assembly. And I was designated, because they didn't quite know what to do with me, to be in the chorus. And what we sang was our class song, the Beatles, All You Need Is Love. And the first line to that now classic song goes something like this: there's nothing you can do that can't be done. Well, here's, in my mind, is doing something that no one thought would be done, because I never in my most expansive imagination believed that I would be back here today on this very stage and in this very auditorium, proudly receiving this tremendous honor. There I was, with my most notable high school achievement being, and my identity being a member of our championship tennis teams for every year that I was here, a student with just an acceptable GPA, but not by any means standing out academically, while the true passion of my life was the then and still beautiful Libby Averill. To maybe coin a phrase from another Beatles song, maybe it was something in the way she moved. But I say this because, given the mysteries and complexities of the unfolding of a life, no one can predict with accuracy how anyone's destiny will unfold. I no longer play tennis and devote my entire professional life to reason and logic in the pursuit of justice. But however, one constant still remains, and that is the love that I have for my life partner, Libby, that began to take root here at Topeka West 42 years ago, and subsequently has blossomed, and now includes 4 adult sons, Jacob and Mark, who are here today, 3 beautiful and intelligent daughters-in-law, one of which, Brandy Rosen, is here today, and 6 plus 1 on the day, perfect grandchildren, 2 of which are up here right now, Jack and Carson Rosen, Carson Jack, Kinley, who's over, where's Kinley?
Up there.
Yeah, Kinley who's up there, Kinley Rosen, and the one who's on the way, who's over there. Another strong component of my life has always been the love and support and the full confidence of my parents, Erwin and Betty Rosen, who have always been there to encourage me, to console and motivate me when I needed it most. And my father, who's turning 91 this December, is here this afternoon. And Dad, as always, thank you for being here. What I was given here at Topeka West was the unshakable sense that all of the faculty that have been up here and what people have spoke so eloquently about here, but they believed in me, had faith in me, and really expressed confidence in me and my fellow classmates' futures. And while everyone was especially helpful and encouraging, and I feel like I'm kind of the last person up here to speak, and maybe it just hasn't all been said yet, Dr. Henson, but I want to acknowledge your support and what you did for all of us here at Topeka West. Your leadership filtered through all of the faculty and through all of the student body. You led Topeka West during the turbulent years of my adolescence, and I'm sure you recall they were turbulent years in our society too. There were extreme reactions to our involvement in Vietnam. There were vast cultural and social upheavals that were not only changing society, but the very rules by which our school functioned. And through it all, Dr. Henson, you kept Topeka West safe, you kept it healthy, and you kept it open, and I mean that in every sense of the word, and you kept it secure for all of our students. And again, just on behalf of everyone that's here, I want to again express my appreciation for that. Thank you very much. And I was hoping to see him here today. I don't think he's here, but I have to mention our head football coach, Ed Scarlett, who until he became our tennis coach, I know he did not realize that a tennis ball was not covered in pigskin. I want to thank him for his patience and his calm demeanor in welding 6 opinionated and individualistic tennis players in what proved to be Topeka West's best tennis teams up to that point in our school's history. And again, I have so many outstanding memories of teachers, but in particular I have an outstanding memory of an ethnic studies class taught by Bill Dingus and a humanities course that was taught in this very auditorium by Marge Bacalar, who Peg McCarthy just mentioned, Royce Fleming, and James Sellers. We all too often hear the cynical phrase pertaining to material acquisitions of possessions, or possessions of material possessions, remember, you can't take it with you. But what I received at this cherished school, I did take with me. A belief in myself, a valuing of the individual worth of all my fellow classmates, and the conviction that work, diligence, and effort are the building blocks of a constructive life of public service and personal gratification. These are the virtues that are indelibly a part of my being and which I attribute to my experience here at Topeka West. And I just want to close with that there's just a vast storehouse of memories that I could draw upon in expressing my gratitude to this fine and dedicated school. But it was during that humanities course that I just mentioned a moment ago that I first heard in a lecture on Hamlet these words from Shakespeare trumpeted. And if anybody heard Mrs. Bacalar, they were trumpeted from this stage. Brevity is the soul of wit. And out of respect for Mrs. Bacalar, for teaching us that intelligent communication should use few and wisely chosen words, my final message is to simply say, thank you. Thank you, boys.
I'd like to thank all of our recipients today and close our ceremony with some words of thanks. First, to all the friends and family members of recipients that helped us honor their loved one today. Thanks to Principal Jeannie Carton and the students and staff at Topeka West for their support of this Hall of Fame and the Distinguished Staff Award Recognition Program. I want to thank the former recipients that came out today. I noticed several of them in the reception, and those of you that are distinguished graduates or staff members are always welcome back at this once-a-year event. Special thanks to Charger teacher Mike Boyer, sitting over here, for his work on the program and the many other ways that he willingly helps to pull this event together. Also thanks to Charger teacher Corey Wilson for his faithful filming of many West events, including this one. He is the reason this program will probably be seen on TPS channel in the future. People actually watch that channel. I go around, during the next course of the year, people will see me and go, I saw you on TPS channel, doing the Topeka West thing. So that's Corey gets that done for us. Don't forget to nominate future candidates, and if the spirit moves you, to donate in your little envelope I gave you so that we can continue this recognition program. Lastly, congratulations to Dr. Henson and our graduate and distinguished staff recipients. See you next year with a new group. Thank you very much for coming out today.